Dave Millican was on Talk Is Jericho this week. Dave Millican, of course, a famous belt maker in the professional wrestling industry. He is the man who took over from Reggie Parks, who made this bad boy right here. And I think it's no secret that this is the greatest wrestling championship belt that has ever been created in the history of life. I think seconded only, or I think the only thing that comes close, I should say rather, would be the big gold, the one that Ric Flair debuted in the NWA. Big gold and this bad boy here, the Winged Eagle, two of the greatest championships of all time. But this one holds a special place in my heart, and I know it does yours as well. I'm a giant belt mark. I fucking love belts. Ever since I was a little kid, I was fascinated with belts. I made the cardboard belts. I made them with tin foil. I had the toy replica belt back in the day, the shitty one that was like a in the early 90s. They made them like it was like a hard plastic like plate base, I guess, with like a foil sticker on it. And then it had like a foam strap with Velcro and stuff. And then, of course, now they still got the foam belts for the kids. And then they got these bad boys, these real life replicas. And just, I've never stopped being a belt mark. I've always loved belts. And this has always been my favorite. So this podcast with Chris Jericho and Dave Millican really caught my attention. I loved it. I highly recommend listening to it if you are a belt mark, because they just talk all about championship belts. It's great. But I thought because of the popularity of this bad boy right here, that this particular clip from Talk Is Jericho this week was on the making of the Winged Eagle title, this belt that we all cherish so much from our childhood, one that is widely considered to be the greatest championship of all time. How did it come about? How was it made? Who had the idea? What was the idea? And how did Reggie Parks make it? Check out this clip.
So are you in charge of the design of this, and kind of how do you go about that?
Yeah, in that case, because it was a time, of course, this is already into the late 90s, and I'd done some other stuff outside of Memphis, really, but nothing notable. And if it was shiny and it looked good on television, that's all they cared about. Then nobody was micromanaging. And really, that's the Reggie way too. I mean, so many designs that people look at are, iconic championship belt designs were an afterthought to Reggie, because the classic Winged Eagle title, they call it, the Bret Hart belt, or the Shawn Michaels, the people you associate that Winged Eagle title belt with, was a phone call from Chief Jay Strongbow to Reggie saying, we want a belt where the eagle consumes the main plate. And the rest of it was Reggie and his team. And it kind of, in Memphis, it was the same way. It's like, we need a new USWA heavyweight belt. What can you do for us?
Right. Isn't that fascinating? It is for me, at least. Fucking Chief Jay Strongbow calls up Reggie Parks. It's just like, hey, we need a belt. We want the eagle to be the biggest part of it. And that's it. That was all he said. And clearly, the Winged Eagle, the eagle does take up the majority of the plate. But look at the beauty in this fucking thing. Look at the detail in this. And just, it's so classic. So fucking gorgeous. And apparently, this was just another day at the office for Reggie Parks. Wasn't a big deal to him. He just kind of whipped it together, just like, okay, we'll put an eagle here, we'll put world there, we'll put heavyweight there. And I also found it fascinating that Reggie still owns, actually, you know what? I don't even know if Reggie's still alive. He's not in the business anymore, that's for sure. He's kind of, Dave Millican was like his hand-picked successor to this, and kind of, mentored him coming up in the belt making process. And I found it interesting that they still retain the rights to this belt, that the design, and I always found that fascinating, because if you go back and you watch other independent promotions over the years, ECW was one, for example. ECW had a very similar title to this one right here. Same basic design, just different logo and stuff, and you'll see that. And I believe that was the case with the Intercontinental title, too. Didn't the Dudley Boys hold tag team titles that were essentially just the old OG Intercontinental title? And I always wondered, are they just fucking copying the WWE models, you know what I mean? But no, apparently Reggie, when he created it, he retained the rights to this likeness. So if some other fuck came along and they're like, hey, I want a belt too, they could just use this design and slap their fucking logo on it instead of the WWE's logo, and bada bing, bada boom. They got a fucking championship belt, a Reggie Parks original. It's so endlessly fascinating for me. I love it so much. Millican talked about a lot of different things as far as the belt making process, who he's worked for. I wish one thing they didn't go through is he didn't specifically name every single belt that he's made. He did say that he made the AEW title. Apparently AEW is now outsourcing their belt making to somebody else. Millican does come with a very high price tag, but he did the AEW title, which he says is the best title on TV right now, which I agree. The AEW title is a thing of beauty. And as Millican points out, it's a statement maker. You know, it's the biggest title. It's the gaudiest title. There's no mistaking it for anything else at all. And I think the AEW world title is fucking gorgeous personally. It's a beautiful design. That's a Dave Millican design. Millican also did the UFC belts, not the stupid octagon ones that they got now. Their belts are so fucking trash, man. I hate the UFC belts. I don't know why they switched. New Japan, same thing. It must just be that Millican's too expensive or something. I don't know. Because, UFC had those gorgeous belts, like the ones that Ronda Rousey had when she was in her run, and some of the early belts that Conor was holding and that kind of thing. Those the bigger, golder ones that they were basically all gold, and they had like the fence in the background, and those UFC belts were fucking gorgeous. And then all of a sudden they just switched with, I don't know if it was just the new owners wanted to put their new stamp on things or something, and they switched those ugly ass titles. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking. Same with New Japan, man. New Japan had some gorgeous gold belts. The Intercontinental title, and still even their U.S. title, I think is pretty gorgeous, though a little gaudy in my opinion. But the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, the IWGP Intercontinental Championship, those were gorgeous fucking belts. They were so well done, and they switched to these weird. They're smaller. They got the like crowny, pointy things on them. They look like trash. Look at the belt that Okada used to hold, and now look at the belt that he holds. It's dog shit. It's an ugly belt. But I'm a big fan of Millican's work. He does a great job, and another fun thing that he said. I'll wrap this up here quick, but I just kind of want to give you the highlights of this thing. That's what we're doing here. We're talking about podcasts. He talked about that if you order a replica, and that I think he said he might not be in the replica business anymore, but for a while he was doing replica belts. Like you could order a replica through Dave Millican. He said like he wasn't able to use like the OG WWF logo on it or anything like that. Maybe you had to put your own logo there. But he would do these replica belts, and he would do them. He said like if you bought a Dave Millican replica belt, you were getting a belt that was handmade in the exact same way that the ones on TV are. So you weren't getting one of cheaper material like this one. This is a WWEshop.com. This is obviously not a multi-$1,000 title. By the way, he said that AEW title was about a $10,000 belt. $10,000 in that bitch. But he said, even special order replicas can get up into the thousands, but they are made exactly, if you were to have bought from Dave Millican himself a copy of this belt right here, it would be no different than the very same belt that those guys wore on TV. Same fucking thing. Just if you're a belt mark, go listen to this if you missed it. I can't recommend it enough. Now, if you don't care about belts, there's nothing of value to you here at all. This is just some very in the weeds, nerdy talk about championship belts. And if you're a belt mark like me, you're going to fucking love it. Talk Is Jericho with Dave Millican. If you're not a belt mark, it's skippable, I suppose. You don't really care. You don't care. But I fucking do. I love this belt. I love hearing about the history of it, the story behind it. And I wanted to share it with you guys. But I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next. Leave your thoughts down in the comments below.
Let me tell you something, brother. You can check out full episodes each and every Sunday right here on this channel, dude. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to take your vitamins and say your prayers, brother.